Hi, I'm Michael Wildenstein. I'm here at NC Tool Company. I'm here today to show you a few tricks that I use in order to get a successful bar shoe. And I'm using an NC Whisper Mama. I feel is the most economical forge on the market. They last a long time, produce a great amount of heat, and have great gas economy. The insulation that is in there is a ceramic type insulation, and it's twice as much insulation as you actually need. It is easy to dent, so you want to be a little careful and conserve your forge and be careful how you put that in. Another thing is that your flux that you use for forge welding is corrosive to the forge liner. So using a limited amount of flux will be very important in conserving your forge. Today we're using a 112-pound NC anvil, and one of the first and foremost things you need to do is have your forge warm, have your anvil warm. Working on a cold forge or cold anvil first thing in the morning and trying to forge weld is not a positive experience. You want to warm things up, set some metal on there, maybe shoe a horse, get some things done, warm things up so that it's not freezing cold. And on a freezing cold winter day, you might want to shoe a couple of horses or make a couple of pair of shoes to warm that up. Well, we'll heat up the fire. I do crank up the pressure somewhat when I'm making a forge weld. I'll usually run it at 5 or 6 pounds, and then when I'm going to make a bar shoe, I'm going to crank it up. And I crank it up until I get a white spot in the box. A white spot. That's what I'm looking for. So I want the least amount of pressure that I can achieve a white spot in the fire. Too much pressure and you're going to have issues. There's too much oxidation. So you're just looking for that white spot. When you get it, that's where you leave the pressure, nothing higher. So I'm using a 112-pound anvil. I've got it bolted to the stand here. For our heavy forging, a heavier anvil is very effective. We're going to start with some straight bar stock and turn it into a shoe. And so I'll show you different techniques that I use that I've been successful in teaching others, and how to get a weld without marks and very uniform in thickness. I was taught by Germans to make shoes, so I do one branch at a time. The first thing I want to do is hockey stick the end, about 1.5 inches. I'm going to flip it right over, not quite 90 degrees, and then I'll put it right there and come into it to bump that up. Flatten it out, bump it up. When you're making a bar shoe, you're going to stretch that material out. So if you bump some extra into it, you'll have that material to use for your wide bar. At this point, I'll clean up that wheel, start my quarter bend, start making that bend, and then I go to the toe, take it over the horn, and send that material over. And flatten it out. And so I have half of the shoe put together. When I'm looking in the forge, I'm looking for a white spot. And one side of the forge might be hotter than another. Look for the whiteness. The whiter it is, the better it is. So I want the most heat with the least amount of pressure I can put on my regulator. Another thing is that these orifices in here do clog up depending on where you get the propane. There could be something in the propane that will clog those up. They need to be cleaned on a regular basis. And those orifices, when they're in the pipe here, has to be right in the center. And sometimes just by moving this a few millimeters, 1/16 of an inch, will make the difference between whether you can get a weld or not. So we're looking for the white spot. We're looking for a clear flame right down to the bottom. And as even a fire as we can get on both sides. So, cleaning the orifices, making sure that your orifice is right in the center of the tube is very important. It's a maintenance that is required on a regular basis. Another thing is when you're welding, put your safety glasses on and have them with the sides on there, because you get sparks flying in every direction. Wear leather, or at the least cotton that's not going to burn up. And it's really cool to forge weld. Those sparks fly all over. Everybody loves to watch it, but watch those people around you, because those sparks are flying a long ways. Also watch the environment. If you've got straw and flammable materials around, you can start a fire in a hurry. And watch the little people that are watching. Their eyes are right at the level of your anvil. You can hurt them very seriously. So protect yourself, protect those around you. Very important. I've heated the shoe again. I'm going to dump the opposite corner, bring that just about to 90, set it right in here and bump it back down. And it's pretty important to have these uniform. You want both branches to be the same length. I'm going to start that corner bend and then walk that shoe around. Walk that shoe around. And keep walking it in. The next thing I want is, when I overlap these, I want the side away from me to be on top. So I'm just going to bump that down right there. Now I'll bring it together so the side away from me is on top. That way, when I'm bringing that weld together, it's pulling it together and not pushing it apart. At this point, I'll run a coarse brush over it. One of the most important things is that you have your material hot and that you have it clean. The hammer I use to form my shoe is a rounding hammer, where you have a flat side and a round side. And when I'm bending the inside of the metal, I'm using the round side of the hammer to get that radius. When I'm flattening it out, I'll use the flat side of the hammer. When I go to make my weld, I want a cross peen. A cross peen, this is a straight peen. Use a cross peen to get that weld. The smaller area helps me massage it together instead of trying to pull it or force it together. And it has a flat side to finish things up. Your hammers need to be warm too. If you have very cold hammers, it's not going to work. They take the heat out of your metal. So the first thing I do when I bring that shoe out is I'm going to scarf it. As the shoe sits in there, it oxidizes. You get a scale on it. That scale needs to come off. And then you put the flux on, which prevents scale from forming. It prevents the debris from creating a barrier in which the metals aren't going to bond. I'm going to quickly just brush that slag off there. Take the cross peen. I'm going to draw towards me, and I want to go from a very steep, on a very steep angle and bring that down right to a feather edge. And then I'll go to the other side and do the same thing. Any place that I'm going to weld, I want it scarfed out to a fine edge. So you can see that it goes from thick to thin very quickly, with a small lip at the very end, very small. At this point, I'll put it back in the fire, bring it to a white heat, brush the slag off again. At that point, flux it. I've got that at a white heat. I'm going to brush it quickly. Brush. I'm going to take the flux and just tap a little bit in there. Tap a little bit in there. It does not take a lot. A lot is not going to make it easier or better to weld. Get it back in there. Your flux only works a certain amount of time. Most fluxes are only good for about 45 seconds. I want to get it in there, bring it back up to critical temperature, and I'm going to flip it. I want both sides equally heated. I'm looking for the hot point in the forge and set it under that hot point. And by moving it just slightly, I'm putting it on hot insulation so that I get the maximum of heat. Another thing I have is the plate in there. I've heated that up. Before before I bring the shoe out, I'm going to put the plate on there. That's a hot point. I'm going to make sure that my tongs are cool, my hands are cool, my hammer's right here ready. I'll bring it out, and I'm going to massage it together right on the very end. And see how it goes together with the same color? Same color, same color. It's all the same color. That's very important. Once it's crusty like that, stop. It's no good to hit it anymore. Just stop, brush it, get some flux on it again, and I'm going to get these corners this time, this corner this time. More is not better. Then put it back in there. Cool your hands, cool your tongs. Have your hammer ready in the position you need it in. Flip your shoe to a hot spot. And if you need a timing, cool your hands, cool your tongs again, and then pick up your hammer, have it in the position you want it in, bring the shoe out, and work those corners again. I'm using the crossbeam side and massaging them together. It's crusty, stop. No sense hitting it anymore when it's crusty. Clean it up. Last time. I'm no longer going to use the plate. Everything is the same color all the way through. I know that I have it stuck. Once I've got the edges, then I can stand it up, work those corners, flatten it out in the middle, come back, work those corners.